Live, and with me, as you can see, is the incomparable Dr. Maria, who I think is responsible to our almost record performance last night. We're up to almost 900,000 people that watched it.
I want to tell you all that America's Mayor Live, I don't know how you're watching, but he goes live on Getter, Rumble, YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter. And Twitter is our biggest audience. And last night it was about 845,000.
It's almost 900 now.
Yeah. So, and that's just one venue. So in all,
we probably went over 1 million.
Yeah. He beats CNN.
Well,
and a lot of other.
That's not even a compliment. Since they were embedded with Hamas.
Yes.
So we're going to begin by saying our respect, our love, our gratitude to all our veterans. This is the day that we remember our veterans. And I know it's not necessary, but for some people it's necessary to point out Memorial Day is the day that we honor those who died in the line of duty.
Right.
But today we honor all of those, my goodness, who could have died in the line of duty, right?
Yep.
I mean, but for the grace of God.
Thank you, Dad and a brother.
Oh, gosh, yeah. I mean, so many. I spoke to a wonderful colonel today on my radio show, and I was supposed to take calls, and I apologized to the people that were on the line, but I couldn't take the colonel off. He was so brilliant.
Colonel Hunt.
What an understanding of terrorism. You know, I listened to all these people on television, the talking heads. And I am an expert on terrorism. I kind of lived through it, right? And then I ran a security company. Most of them don't know what the hell they're talking about. This guy, I could learn from him. Well, in any event, we have a lot of people in the military like that. They're not treated properly, and that's why we are honored to have as a sponsor. We're honored to have as a sponsor Tunnels to Towers, T2T.org. Now, there are many good organizations that help veterans, but Maria and I can personally attest to their honesty, their integrity, their incredible dedication to the mission. And they're constantly thinking about new things they can do for veterans.
That's right. They're developing smart homes for those that were catastrophically injured in the Iraq, Afghanistan, in the war after 9/11. And those homes really make it easier for some of these people who are in wheelchairs or don't have arms. So the home, right when you enter a room, the lights will come on, the stove will come back to their level on a wheelchair.
Here's an example. Somebody in the Marines, somebody in the Army, let's say, had his arms and legs blown off. Because of modern medicine and because of the magic of modern medicine and the beauty of it, his life was saved. And this may be a man who in the Second World War, the Korean War, maybe the Vietnam War would have been dead.
That's true.
But he's alive now. And his brain is functioning perfectly.
It's a good segue. We've had 47 attacks since October 17th on our military. 48
one
now.
more since we talked to the colonel.
Okay. So that's in Syria and in
58.
My mind just went black.
58.
Iraq.
58. We have 58 attacks, 25 plus. And traumatic brain injury.
Yes.
Tell us what that is.
Traumatic brain injury usually occurs when there's like a concussion grenade or a bomb went off nearby. And our brain is in a very little cushion. We don't have a lot of space between our brain and our skull. And when you have any kind of motion like this or back and forth inside, your brain does have injury. And unfortunately, once you're diagnosed with TBI, you have it for the rest of your life. And it can be very devastating and very crippling. You can suffer from extreme headaches, depression. The chemistry inside the brain gets a little bit rattled as well. I was very, very sad to hear that because initially the news was just reporting some injuries, right? You didn't hear about deaths. So you're like, okay, maybe there was
the Biden administration, unfortunately, retired Admiral Kirby and others constantly lie. They constantly lie. The minute they started putting out those reports, I knew they were not true. And I've been searching around for the real ones. The other day they doubled. Today they almost doubled again. And all of a sudden, no serious injuries. Oh, well, there are 26 with traumatic brain injury. That's okay. You get your brain blown away. I guess, we don't. And now, also remember this. When they put this out, they exclude something. They exclude the fact that an American contractor working for the military died while he was running to escape a bomb. He got a heart attack, but the heart attack was induced by his having to exert himself to run to escape a bomb. That would be considered a line of death duty. It is very, very similar to a situation in Syria when we had a president who was sitting next to the premier of China for dinner after playing golf at Mar-a-Lago.
Yeah.
The president said, "Excuse me, Mr. Z," or whatever he calls him. "Excuse me, ZZ," whatever. You know how Trump tries to lull you into. He got up, left his dinner table. He was gone for a bit of a while, and I think Z was a little insulted. He was gone that long. He comes back, and he just goes back to there talking about whatever. After dinner's over, Z asks, "But what did he go do?" He just went and bombed Syria. They didn't just bomb Syria. He bombed the living daylights out of them, so they never bombed us again. Now, the reason I'm telling you this is the casualty, American soldiers were injured. The casualty was an American contractor. He considered the American contractor's life an important enough life to seek the appropriate justice and also to create the appropriate deterrent. I asked a colonel this, and he agrees with me. I think any sensible person would. When you have 58 attacks, and on your side you have 25 traumatic brain injuries and a death, and your response are 2 attacks on empty ammunition depots. Well, one was empty of people, and one was empty of people and ammunition. So basically, we hit nothing. Boop, boop. A Clinton empty field bombing that helped to create 9/11.
The sad thing is, it almost feels like they're not cared for, or American lives don't matter.
They're not.
Now, another point to make is we have American hostages being held by one of the worst terrorist groups besides ISIS. They're equal to ISIS. They are brutal.
We'll hardly mention it.
And it's hardly ever mentioned. Instead, we're begging Netanyahu to have these breaks. You know what happens on these 4-hour ceasefires? Hamas is strategizing how to move people, maybe the hostages, how to get out themselves. I don't even know. This is my theory only. I have no intel on this. I wonder if some of those hostages have been moved to Hezbollah in Lebanon. Today, the government did verify that there's other terrorist groups holding some of the hostages.
Yeah, there are also 500 Americans stuck in Gaza that they will not let out. Now, they're hostages. Now, I go back to the hostage crisis under Jimmy Carter that got him thrown out of the White House.
Yes, I remember it like yesterday.
For good reason. Yeah. But every night, American television, for as many days as they were hostages, would list a number. Every night, Carter was faced with that. Nobody even bothers to get the number now.
No. It's like an afterthought.
I mean, he can go have his ice cream and go off into his Alzheimer's dreaming, and he doesn't even hear about it. No. This is terrible. Now, I want you to hear something.
Okay.
I want you to hear something from Mr. Demented, because there's a war going on. People are getting killed. Israelis have been raped, beaten. Their children have been killed. They're still waiting to try to get their children. And and Biden has gone back and forth. I don't know how often he and that person he has as a press secretary, the little one and the big one. I don't know who's worse.
Kirby's. Oh, Kareem.
Well, Kirby was an admiral. How he can lie like this is disgraceful. And I don't know what she was, but I mean, she doesn't even know what the truth is. No, we didn't ask for a pause. He never asked for a pause. No, he never. First time they did that was when he went on the trip, and they're all denying it. He never asked for a pause. He gets off the plane, and they ask him, "Did you ask for a pause?" And Dopey says yes.
You know what it is? It's a manipulation of a word. It's a ceasefire.
But he's too stupid to go along with the program.
Yeah.
I mean, they're running.
But he denies ever asking for a ceasefire, but now he says,
how about this?
He did a pause.
How about this?
Did you ask for a 3-day pause to Netanyahu?
You know, I've been asking for a pause for a lot more than 3 decades. Yes.
Well, he said 3 decades at first.
Did you ask him to pause for 3 days to get the hostages out for that?
Yes. I've asked for even a longer pause for some of them. Good.
So he denies asking for a ceasefire, but he just said
For a long pause.
first he made a mistake and said 3 decades, but then he said 3 days or even longer. That's a ceasefire. Any amount of time is a ceasefire.
Okay, we're going into toward the end of the football season. I'm winning the game, 21-0. And the other side says, we'd like to take a 4-day pause. Well, you can take a 4-day pause? Yeah, if you're a traitor.
Yeah.
Now, who does the pause help?
Hamas.
And is Hamas really going to use that to help their people when Hamas puts them right there to die? Israel has been begging them to go south. Hamas has been begging them to stay where they are. Israel is asking them to get out of the line of fire. Hamas is saying, die for your country, or die for your terrorist cause, or die so that we can have the resources to eliminate the Jewish people and then the American people.
The IDF found weapons in a girl's closet, underneath in the tunnels of a school. So all the rumors you heard about Hamas using
I wish I had the pictures. We have pictures of that. I mean, this is not made up.
I know.
Now, anti-Semitism, I don't know. Look, the president of the United States is disgraceful and he's dishonoring America, and he's been doing it since the day the crook got in the White House. But we're dishonoring ourselves now by not doing more about anti-Semitism. Jewish people, and I feel it really because I was the mayor of the largest Jewish city in the United States, largest Jewish city maybe in the world, and I was fiercely proud of that. I was fiercely proud of that because I am a student of history, and I understand what the Jewish people mean to Western civilization. We wouldn't have it if it wasn't for the Jewish people.
Mm-hmm.
We wouldn't be here. I don't care if you're Jewish or you're not. You would not have Western civilization without the Jewish people. A couple of others, the Greeks. I don't want to leave anybody out. The Romans, right? The Christian religion. Mm-hmm. They all put together Western civilization. But they're one of the cores of it, right? The 10 Commandments is the core of our laws. I'm not sure if we had laws if it wasn't for the 10 Commandments. Okay. You know that anti-Semitism is probably the biggest aberration in human morality. 2,000 years of torturing these people for no good reason other than they want to live by a moral code that frightens other people because they can't live by it. And then all kinds of crazy things they make up. Well, we added one. The New York Times added one, and that is that they bombed a hospital and killed children, which will be now what you would call added to the blood libels of the Jewish people.
And where did New York Times have the source? It was a Hamas operative who gave them that story, and they believed it. But we know New York Times, CNN, AP, and Reuters embedded photojournalists in with Hamas, and they were there during that brutal massacre of innocent civilians.
Dr. Maria.
Taking pictures.
Under
one photographer took a selfie with a Hamas leader. That's his idol? Come on.
How do you embed journalists with terrorists?
I don't know.
I don't know. It isn't an army.
I think we need to
These are wild, insane, inhumane, indecent. You can use as an allegorical comparison that they're animals, but animals are better. Animals are probably fairer. They have fair fights.
Yeah. I think we need to give you some talking points so you could say to these people who are in those marches, free Palestine from the river to the sea.
So
they don't even realize that Palestine never had a land. The Jewish people in Judea, in modern day Israel, gave them some land to settle. They are the heroes. They're not occupying Palestine. And the Palestine people voted Hamas as their leader.
Is there a place where you can write to Prince Obama?
I don't know.
Is there a place where you can write to Prince Obama?
Hawaii.
No, he's
he's in Massachusetts most of the time, my neighboring state. I could take a drive.
No, he's Prince Obama because he's getting ready to be king of the one world. That'll be set up by him and Gates and
Soros
Soros and Klaus
Bari.
Schwab. Klaus Schwab, I will be head of the SS. Klaus Schwab, one world. We will have one world. You will love being poor. Everybody will be poor except who I say will not be poor.
Dr. Maria, so Mayor, Dr. Maria brings up a very good point. At what point do the Palestinian people have to take some responsibility for what's happening here? This narrative that all these innocent bystanders and a small group of Hamas people that are controlling everything, that's just not the case.
Well,
right?
they should have started taking responsibility about 50 years ago when they killed the King of Georgia.
Shouldn't they be denouncing Hamas? Where were they on October 7th? We saw these videos. I saw a lot of people just sitting around letting it happen. What would you and I do if somebody else, even an American, were tearing someone's head off in the street?
Ted, your favorite candidate believes that 50% of the Palestinian people are good people and they oppose Hamas and they should be allowed to come to the United States. You know your favorite candidate is Nikki Haley.
Oh, he loves her.
No, don't tell me.
He just passed out.
You know, I'm staying with Vivek even after the fake news attacks on him. I stand by Vivek.
When we were watching the debates the other night at your house, Mayor, Ted kissed the screen with Nikki Haley.
Oh, stop!
I know. No, but I mean, the reality is there are many myths about all of this, but the idea is, because we can't believe this. Oh, there are many, many good people in Palestine, and they really don't want Hamas. And so let's start off with a couple of questions. Have you ever seen a rally against Hamas by the Palestinian people?
No.
Have you ever seen a rally by the Iranian people against the murdering Ayatollah? Yes.
No. Oh, yes. In Iran, yes, it happens.
And not only that, they hold things like
they risk
we
their lives.
We want
it's
Trump.
Amazing.
We want Trump, and they get killed for it. Okay. Number two, they're all, and you may say this is not their fault or it is their fault, but it's reality. This is the reality. An American president has to be a realist. You can't be an asshole like the guy in the White House. And I'm sorry, that's the nicest thing you could say about him. Now,
in pandering, right? Pandering all the time.
So whether the Palestinian people are nice people or not, they're trained from the day they're born to kill Jews.
Yes, it's out on Rudy's social media, video of these small children talking.
The first time I saw these? Yeah. Bibi showed me, Ehud Olmert showed me these in 1997, 1996. And then Bibi would constantly, whenever I go there, he'd always have a couple of videos ready for me of how because he would say, how are we going to get out of this when they're teaching the 2-year-olds to kill us?
Yeah.
And they're not just doing it in Gaza, they're doing up in the so-called West Bank. Now think about this. Stinking Blinken and Biden want the West Bank to govern all the Palestinian Authority. Bibi says we should be allowed to govern them for a while to straighten them out.
Yeah.
Bibi's right. They're wrong.
Yeah.
Bibi is saying something that's much more in the interest of America than what these two traitors are. Because the last thing in the world America needs is another terrorist state. Why? And this has always bothered me about our wanting to do a 2-state solution. One state will be Israel, one of our best friends. The other state will be a state that's a terrorist state like Iran, in which every one of their kids has grown up to, well, the default position is to kill Americans. Optimum, you kill a Jew. You can't get a Jew kill an American.
Yeah.
Same with Iran. And that's why Soleimani was such a horrible human being. He specialized in killing Americans. Biden didn't think he should be killed. Does it tell you something? He didn't think bin Laden should be killed. Does it tell you something? And he wants to give money, and he has given millions and billions, including the last $6 billion. Don't you think Qatar's giving him that money? We got any proof that Qatar hasn't turned that money over to them?
I'm very suspicious of Qatar. They house the leaders of Hamas who are living in mansions. They're complicit in all of this. And of course, we know Iran is for sure. We know now these terrorists who killed and maimed and murdered and brutalized these innocent Israeli citizens were trained for 2 years in Iran.
Well, I think it's time to take a break. Mm-hmm. And we will do T2T.org.
That's right.
Not only is he the host, but he's the lead producer.
Like hell. I don't get any chance to produce. Towers Foundation delivers on its promise to do good and never forget the sacrifices America's greatest heroes have made for us. Heroes who risked their lives to keep our communities and our country safe. Heroes like United States Marine Corps Captain and pilot John Jeremy Sachs. Captain Sachs sustained fatal injuries when his military aircraft crashed during training, killing him and 5 other service members. He's remembered by loved ones as courageous, brilliant, and devoted to his career, family, and friends. John is survived by his wife, Amber, who gave birth to their second daughter 3 months after his death. Tunnel to Towers paid the mortgage on the family home for Amber and their 2 daughters. The foundation has helped over 1,000 military and first responder families navigate the worst of times by removing the burden of a mortgage payment. Our nation's heroes and their families need your help now more than ever. Donate $11 a month to Tunnel to Towers at T2T.org. T2T.org. That's T, the number 2T.org. T2T.org. Please donate now. So, Rudy Giuliani back with America's Mayor Live with the tremendous help and assistance of my partner on Sunday morning. Don't forget to tune in on WABCRadio.com all over the world for Uncovering the Truth.
Yes, we
And-
are.
and I
we
gotta
have
tell
a
you, we got
highly successful radio
and a
show.
great audience. We have a great audience. I mean, we get help on analyzing issues constantly from that audience. So the New York Times was in a double yesterday. Catch this one. The New York Times there was a demonstration that started at Bryant Park, okay, and they were going after the Times for being too supportive of Israel, and they said and Biden. So they were chanting, "Biden, Biden, you can't hide. You're supporting genocide." And then they went over to the Times building. Of course, the Times let them in because they're a bunch of schmucks. And they said, "We will continue holding the New York Times to account for inciting genocide." That was one group. Then later in the day, they had a group that came in that said that they were they had a group that came in that was protesting how they are supporting Hamas, how they refer to Hamas not as a terrorist group, but as militants to soften the blow.
Oh,
How they, for 2 days, allowed the blood libel that the Jewish people, the Israel, destroyed the hospital. One was a backfired, Palestinian missile. And they go on and on. So they were getting hit for 2 sides. So let me make it clear. They shouldn't be hit for 2 sides. They're on one side. They are not on the side of America. Haven't been for years. They're not on the side of Hamas. And they haven't been on the side of the Jewish people since they wanted to, they turned their back on the Jews in the 1930s. I mean, this newspaper has a bit of a history.
They denied the Holocaust. The New York
for a
Times.
while. I mean, but I mean, the New York Times has a regrettable history of what they're doing. Now, it isn't just now. I want to be fair. It isn't just the New York Times that's a lying, anti-American newspaper that should be used for only one purpose, which she will not allow me to say.
The litter box?
No, even worse.
Oh,
even better. This was a cartoon that was played in the Washington Post. Feel sorry for the poor guy that did this. So that looks to me like kind of almost like Arafat, right? So this is quintessential Palestinian, right? And what does he got? What does he have? He has children crying strapped around him, and women, and all the things that this cowardly, horrible excuse for a human being would do. Just like the cowardly, horrible excuse for human beings are hiding behind babies, hospitals, and everything else. Perfectly appropriate cartoon. They are doing this. Well, big ruckus that this was xenophobic or one of those phobics.
Islamophobic. Islamophobic.
This was Islamophobic or just phobic in general. They took it down. They apologized for it.
Oh my goodness.
They apologized for it. This is the truth.
Yep.
Now, of
Hide
course,
behind
this is
children.
the truth.
And you look
And
who's
that-
behind
and
him. A mullah, right?
Of course.
I don't know.
And mullahs are rotten gangsters.
Yeah, from Iran.
And Arafat, his wife is sitting in the south of France with a couple of $1 billion. That's the reason why the Palestinian people are starving.
Yeah.
But, once again, you have no idea what the New York Times wrote about me when I threw Arafat out of the UN. I was going to cause a war.
You did the right thing, by the way, and you're
I
a
didn't,
hero for
didn't
it.
cause any war. And I pointed out 4 years early, if Clinton had picked it up, that the guy was going to double cross him, which he did. Clinton gave him everything that he wanted, including part of Jerusalem. Arafat said, no. You know why? Because he needed the war to steal money. Is there a current situation in the world that possibly reminds you of that?
I know.
No.
Oh, all right.
We want to leave him guessing.
Okay.
We want to leave him guess. We'll bring it. We'll take it up.
Can I make a comment here?
Of course you
A
can.
group of journalists are sending around a letter saying that the media is too pro-Israel, and they're calling them names and everything else. It reminds me of the 51 spies who lied, who signed a letter
Defaming
saying
me.
the laptop was Russian disinformation. Without saying his name, they were saying, because Rudy was the one that said, America, I love you and I believe in my country and you deserve to know it's being censored. And they couldn't take it anymore. So they had these people, I don't know how they can look themselves in the mirror, sign a false letter saying that the laptop had earmarks of Russian disinformation.
And
so now journalists are doing this too.
Well, they're a bunch of prostitutes. I mean, the reality is that Biden knew, for months that laptop was validated, that it was his son's laptop, it was not Russian, and he went ahead and he lied and directly accused me of being a Russian pawn, for which I'm suing him, and nobody covers the suit. Don't you think a lawsuit between maybe one of the most famous mayors in America?
In the world, may I say.
Maybe, all right. I mean, people, if I walk down the streets of Rome, people will walk, let me pick a city that's not Italian, London. If I walk down the street of London, I can't get
They
through
line
the street
up.
without people coming up to me.
Want a picture?
And
I love you, man.
And forget all the attacks on me. All they do is thank me for what I did with New York or commiserate with me for what the Democrats have done to New York. So,
Oh, by the way-
so whether you like me or you don't
sorry.
like me, I'm a famous person.
Yes.
A very famous person who had once the reputation of being a great lawyer, having
You
accomplishing
still do.
other lawyers, is
You
suing the
still
president of
do.
the United States. That's newsworthy.
That's front page news.
And by the way, if they ever examine what I'm suing him for, it's clear on the public record that he's guilty. We know that I wasn't a Russian agent. We know that they contrived that whole thing. It's all proven. You got all the documents in the paper. He certainly libeled me. So pay me the money.
Yep.
Now I'm thinking about going after the 51 others.
I wouldn't blame you if you did, Rudy. You
And
know what? You've
definitely
always
Blinken,
taken-
who's lying now about the letter. Blinken is now lying and saying he didn't organize the letter. So he's saying that Admiral Morell is lying.
Miranda Devine also looked at emails between
Oh, yeah.
Blinken and other people that she says he 100% knew and wanted that letter to help an election. It was interfering with an election.
You mean Blinken?
Yes.
Yeah, but they never blame Blinken because he looks like a sissy.
Now there's a group of people who are suing. Actually, they are wanting these 51 people. They're doing something, some kind of lawsuit saying the 51
If
people.
I start speculating what should be done to them, I get in a lot of trouble.
made an illegal election campaign contribution by doing this.
That's what the Russian collusion was about. Illegal campaign
Can I
contribution.
say where we are?
Oh, please. Yeah, tell me. This is very interesting.
So Rudy and I have been invited to what's called Walk-a-con, like BravoCon, every kind of con. It's a Walkaway movement, and this is their 5th anniversary. It's started by a gentleman named Brandon Strzok, and he was a lifelong Democrat. And he said the values just aren't with the Democrat Party anymore. He sees links of communism, Marxism. So he started an organization that blew up. Lots of people started coming, talking about their stories. So we were invited on their 5th anniversary here in West Palm Beach. We're both speaking separately, but we're both speaking after Rudy's show. And it's a weekend festivity. Walkaway. What is the website? Can we say the website? Sorry.
Well,
Caught you off
this
guard.
is precisely a walkathon that Winston Churchill would have come to, Ronald Reagan would have come to, Donald Trump would have come to, and Rudy Giuliani.
And what do they all have in common?
We switched from Democrat to Republican.
Yes.
And you can visit the Walkaway
Well, he switched
campaign.
from liberal to conservative.
That's
Churchill.
walkawaycampaign.com.
Churchill switched from liberal to conservative, and even though all of the other men I mentioned, with the exception of me, are brilliant, he maybe was the most, and said the following: if you are not a liberal when you're 20, you have no heart. If you're not a conservative by the time you're 40, you have no brain.
I like the saying, but I respectfully disagree
I know
because
you-
I think I came out of the womb a conservative.
No, she was. She was. She's,
And I always had a heart. Always.
she's a pure Republican. So let me just give you a couple little quick facts. You get it. You get the idea of it. 20 arrested at Brown University for an anti-Israel, pro-Hamas sit-in. Okay. University of Pennsylvania is sending around all kinds of multimedia things that interfere with students and classes and everything else, saying Zionism is racism. From the river to the sea, Palestinians will be free, which means wipe out all the Jews. And they are threatening violence in some of these. I haven't seen those. I've seen the other two. And they're interrupting like classes. Do they have libraries? These kids don't read, right? Otherwise, they would know
Every
that.
university has libraries. So.
Yeah, but they don't use it. The books are
Well,
so
except in
clean
the
now.
one university that had Jewish students hiding in a library because they felt their lives
That
were
was
threatened.
Cooper Union.
Well,
It was live.
Right.
Any of them,
Yeah.
any of them have
Yeah.
things called history books that, for example, tell you that Israel stopped occupying Gaza in 2005, so that when the complete phony Prince Obama says that we have to stop occupying Gaza, somebody should tell him. I know it happened before you were president, but didn't they tell you it's not?
Man, some schools don't even teach about
What's
9/11
wrong with him?
anymore.
Why does he
No,
say
it's
that?
insane.
Does he say that because he's stupid or because he's a communist?
Probably both.
Yeah. All right. So that's going on at the University of Pennsylvania. Now, on the good side, a Jewish billionaire, Henry Sueika, quit the board of directors of Columbia University and is no longer going to be making contributions that were in the millions and millions of dollars. Thank you, Henry. Henry says he's doing it because of the blatantly anti-Jewish sentiment and the complete moral cowardice of the Columbia faculty and particularly their president.
Yes.
And a great article by a woman who grew up under Chinese communism, talking about really the development of. The article is by Wai Hua Chin. It's in today's New York Post. It's called "The Real Root of Campus Anti-Semitism," and I think you're going to find out that the real root of it is Marxism through the Democratic Party. They take you through all these organizations and they show you, like the 1619 Project, the false history of the United States is a purely Marxist document. You change the history of a country when you want to destroy it.
That's
You
right.
change the morals of a country.
Yep.
You don't want people being married anymore. You want to screw up the genders.
Yes.
You want people with no values, and you want no
You
families.
don't mind the fentanyl coming in. You want this chaos. You divide black against white, white against black. But we don't tolerate that as Americans, do we?
200 United States universities, including Cornell and Harvard, have taken over $13 billion in undocumented contributions from foreign governments that they will not disclose. Most of the governments include China, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and the United Arab Republic.
Yeah. Harvard and China seem to be hand in hand.
Carnegie Mellon looks like it got some of the most, 1.47 billion. 1.47 billion. And do you know the places where Biden put the stolen documents that he took were all controlled by the Chinese,
Yes, UPenn.
including his own home, because he put it in his own home right next to the car that his son drove every day. And the guy who was a partner in a $30 million deal with the spy chief of China passed it every day. In other words, rather than putting it in a place where it would be hard for the Chinese communists to get it, he put it in the easiest place for them to get it. Maybe that's why they paid him the money, because they're not jerks.
You know, you mentioned the donors. There was one from Harvard who was so upset about 30 organizations, student organizations at Harvard, you know, was the pro-Palestinian, pro-terrorist angst. And he said, put those names out because we don't want to hire them. And I think there should be consequences. If you're going to say, I love these terrorists, they are doing the right thing, and I'm going to disrupt your streets and your universities and everything else, then why should I hire someone like you who really hates America?
Look, we have a small business.
Yeah.
Dr. Maria is the president of the business. And no, we don't do anything without Dr. Maria, right? Ted? I mean, she's the boss, honest. And so we wouldn't hire anybody unless she agreed, because we think she has better judgment about people. But to have good judgment about people, you have to have facts.
Yeah.
I mean, anybody, I don't care who you are, unless you're Houdini, anybody can be fooled.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, a person could walk into my office and be the biggest axe murderer in the world, but just figure out how to dress up right, have a phony resume.
Say the right things. I've hired some bad apples in my day.
Boy, have I made mistakes. Wow, have I made mistakes. I mean, when that guy, Igor's partner, well, no, when he went south on us, Trump used to say to me, boy, you were pretty bad at hiring. You know what I say to Trump? You hired Michael Cohen. But then you got to know this about Trump. You can do that with him. And he would just laugh. I mean, but then after a while, it became like a joke. You know, the first time he was shocked that I came back at him. But from then on, it was like a joke. And we would do it in front of people. It was hilarious. About 20 students at Brown were arrested for...
Yeah, said that.
Oh, I said that already?
Yep.
I did that one. Okay. How about gushing with pride? A Hamas terrorist phoned home, like E.T., on October 7th. They just got the recording. And he told his parents, probably about an 18-year-old, right? I killed 10 with my own hands. Dad, now I can do 10 more Jews. You can hear that recording if you go online. And the Shifa hospital, of course, is going to be, I mean, they're sort of working their way around it, destabilizing some of it. Got to be a big decision made there because the Shifa hospital probably still has about 1,000 patients. Below it, however, is not just a command center of Hamas, massive amount of weapons, and the connecting point for their intricate tunnel system. Well, you can take their tunnels apart a lot of different ways. If you want to take it apart quickly, you blow that up.
Mm-hmm.
If you take it apart the other way and you save the civilian lives, right, you're going to lose a lot of Israeli troops. And so Bibi got criticized by the communist, anti-American New York Times for pointing out that we made a decision like that with the bombing of Japan. America did. And Truman decided that the number he was given was he could have 500 to 100,000 to 1 million American casualties. If he hit him with the bomb, it would be the only way to stop him because the Japanese would not surrender. And he used a bomb and he killed, less than 100,000 people?
Yeah, in Hiroshima, and then 9 days later,
But
bombed
not
Nagasaki.
Americans. And isn't his job to save Americans?
Yeah.
His job is not to sit there. He's certainly not supposed to wantonly, for no reason, kill anyone, civilian or even soldier. But his job has to be to err on the side of protecting the lives of his citizens. So if I'm going to lose, a couple of thousand Israelis or a couple of thousand Palestinians, I'm going to lose a couple of thousand Palestinians.
Yeah. Those
And
decisions
if not, I
are
violate
made
my
all the
oath.
time in war, right?
But they're making that decision impossible.
So we're being told we're going to a commercial.
Well, that's good. Thank you. Thank you, boss.
QUX.
Oh, QUX.
QU.
Our device is something that you can plug into your television And now you can use your television as a social television type experience. So in the Portal universe, you can watch your favorite content creators' videos, live streams, music. We also have TV subscriptions as well.
TV subscriptions.
You can also
regular channels, all the sports.
Right, you can actually cut your cable from your cable subscription and get QUX TV on our QX TV boxes, and you can pay half the price that you're currently paying for your cable television subscription, and you can get all the best premium TV channels and more. I mean, it's really, there's so much on there, Rudy. I mean, you've seen it.
No, I've seen it and I use it, and it's good. I mean, it's great. It's just exactly the same except for half the price. Plus, nobody is finding out what I'm watching, and that's not being reported to anybody.
Right, so you have absolute privacy using this device, which you don't have on other devices out there currently on the market.
This is absolutely great. QUX.TV is how you can find out about it. QUX.TV.
Use promo code RUDY to receive $30 off.
Bar associations. We have the bar associations in the major cities, Democrat cities in this country, are pretty much in a different way as corrupt. I'm talking about intellectual corruption now, not money corruption. I have no reason to believe they're money corrupt. The Democratic Party is money corrupt, as well as intellectually corrupt. But the bar associations are just a function of a modern woke society, and in fact, they're on the front lines of it. I mean, you'd equate them with the like the Washington Post taking down that cartoon, or the New York Times, not wanting to call Hamas terrorists, and then for much too long believing them about the Israelis bombing a hospital.
I have an
The
idea.
bar associations are just as corrupt as that.
I agree with you. And I think just taking New York, for instance, you have two things happening in New York, more than that, but two things that are in the front page every day. And that's the Trump trial with a discredited judge whose wife is putting out on social media, F Trump. The husband,
She denies it.
The judge now got caught on some, I don't know, sexual type social
Did you say
media thing.
pot?
I don't know, sexual thing there.
That guy's sexual?
He's showing his abdomen. It's really weird.
It's some
But
sort
he better show nothing. He better start showing something but of his face.
But
he's not going to get much with his
The whole thing
face.
is ridiculous. So going back to the New York Bar Association, if they had any self-regulating ability, they would look at that judge and they would look at Letitia James. She used her job to go after a political opponent.
But they don't care. I mean, the Democrats in New York have brainwashed the poor people of New York so that somehow they don't care. I mean, the things happening in that trial are insane. The law clerk has violated every damn rule and law of a judicial employee not participating in politics. She has made 4 times the legal limit of contributions. She participated in gathering signatures, collecting money, working for 4 or 5 different questionable Democrat organizations. And then you want the coup de grace, the piece de resistance? She ran herself for office with the backing of the Democratic boss, who's also the boss of the judge. Remember, judges in New York are bossed by the Democratic county leader. They are put on the ballot to be elected, but the election is as good as an election in China or old Soviet Russia or Nazi Germany. Meaning, when I went to vote a couple of days ago, there were 5 judges on the ballot. They were all Democrats. They got elected, but they had no opponents. Do you consider that an election?
No.
Or do you consider that is massive proof that Rudy Giuliani is right and New York City is a fascist Democrat dictatorship and has been pretty much on and off since Boss Tweed.
Just like DC Bar. Why aren't they censoring or disbarring the judge for the January 6th
because they have to
peaceful protesters? The majority of them. May have been some bad apples, but the majority of those people are being politically persecuted.
Because and then they spend the rest of their money on going after me for having handled a case I mean,
For doing your job.
one of the referees or judges said during it, "Isn't this what most lawyers do?" And then everybody looked at him, and the poor guy looked like, "Oh my God, I may never go to a cocktail party again. I better shut up about that." Man, and think about this: the referee on my case in New York, who's also comes up through the Democrat corrupt machine. If she would just think what would happen if she were to write a decision saying Giuliani was absolutely right and they were unfair in doing what they did to him, she'd be done. She'd be finished. All these little engagements she gets as a referee or whatever, over, baby, over. All her friends wouldn't talk to her. Do you think I'm exaggerating? I watched this happen to people. One of the reasons, it's really odd, one of the reasons that there was some confusion in the case in Pennsylvania, in Philadelphia, is because I had to take over less than 24 hours before because the poor guy handling the case
He's getting threatened.
he was going to get thrown out of his
law
law firm.
firm was going to kick him out? For what? Defending people who saw fraud?
He wouldn't have gotten thrown out if he was defending a terrorist. In fact, he would have gotten the Lawyer of the Year award if he did that.
Probably.
No, I'm serious. I mean, this is really, really. Now, Dr. Maria, your speech pretty soon.
Yes, I'm going to be saying adieu, and thank you for having me on again,
I wish we
Mayor.
could see her speech. You know, she is an excellent speaker.
Why, thank you.
Now everybody's going to. Could you leave like a picture of you behind so everybody will stay on and watch us? So, you know what they say? They say about me? I have a face for radio. Isn't that the way they say it? I have a face for radio.
You're a handsome guy, man.
She got a face for television. Well, come on. I'm not. One thing I've never been in my life is unrealistic. I've always been realistic. Always been like right on target, realistic. You know, I may have sent her a little early because they're late. The program, of course, you know, this is not unfair, being unfair to them. All these programs. I can't think of a program that was ever on time, including the Republican National Convention. Another reason it wasn't on time because I always went over my speech limit. I once screwed up the introduction of. I can't remember when I did that. Twice I did it. Oh boy! But the crowd loved me so. Remember, lock her up, lock her up. That's where it started. Don't tell anybody. Between us. Oh, we're not on America's Mayor Confidential. I'll tell you about Lock Her Up on America's Mayor Confidential because that's what it's for. It's for secrets, right? That's right. It's for secrets. I do have one good feeling, I must say. I really do see, it's not quite the level I would like yet, but I do see hitting back now. I see these people who are taking their money back. I see even people on for quite some time. Bill Maher has really kind of been a moral barometer for the crazy left wingers, and in a way, he and Dershowitz remind me of the liberals I grew up with. And I don't know that I was ever a liberal. I was certainly a Democrat, and I'd say I was a. Here's what I was when I was young, and I was very involved intellectually in politics, and even directly. I was a very, very strong conservative on foreign policy, meaning in those days, virulent anti-communist. I have never seen a single thing about communism that isn't evil. And I've never seen a movement that's killed more people, including Nazism. I was also somewhat liberal on social issues because I had a real feeling and did believe that Democrats were the party of the poor and Republicans were the party of the rich. So that was the nature of my Democratic leanings. Never on foreign policy. From the minute I could start thinking, it seemed to me that they weren't defending us, that they were defending either their ideology or they were too influenced by Russia. So I was always on the verge, right? But then I was also taught to believe that Republicans are the party of the rich. And I'll tell you what killed me there. I was an assistant U.S. attorney. I was young. It was my second or third year. I was given a case involving the investigation of the Model Cities Administration, which was a Great Society program in which tremendous amount of money was put in with no accountability, kind of like the way we give money to Ukraine. And here I am, a young guy. I start the investigation. Luckily, I had Detective Carl Bogan to help me, who understood how to investigate. And within a few short months, I brought the whole damn place down. I mean, the whole 15 of them, the whole upper echelon. The number 2 guy, I turned, and he cooperated for us and wore a wire. We took them all down. It probably is the first thing that made me sort of like, oh, wow, he's really good. But it was easy because they were so crooked. And they're all Democrats. And I'm saying to myself, like their Democratic district leader, they all got put in there. And they got put in there not because they knew anything about poverty, but because they were Democratic district leaders, they were Democrat poll watchers, they were Democrat this, they were Democrat that. Some of them, it turns out, would give money to the county leader. $2,000, $5,000. Then I found out something that knocked me on my boom. Basically, you had to pay to be a judge because you don't get elected. You have no chance of being a judge in New York unless you kiss the backside of the county leader of the Democratic Party. And not all county leaders of the Democratic Party are corrupt, but you should assume they are because they probably are going to be corrupt. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you're going to get an exceptional one who's honest. But in my experience, enough investigating, everyone I investigated, I caught. Tragically, one of them committed suicide. But he was the one that could have opened up the whole thing. I mean, this guy would take, some of them would take the money for the party. This guy would take the money for himself. Operatives of the Democratic Party made it very hard to get to him because they encouraged him, I believe, to commit suicide. Nice, huh? This is the Democratic Party of 30 or 40 years ago. It's been worthless for a long time. There must have been a good time. I mean, I think in from maybe the 50s and 60s and 70s, there were a lot of good people in the party. You had, your conservative and middle-of-the-road Democrats. Then, of course, you had your Dixiecrats, who were the biggest race mongers, the biggest, like Biden's friend, the guy who was a big mucky muck in the Ku Klux Klan.
Grand Wizard.
The Ku Klux Klan. I mean, how does Biden get away giving a eulogy for a guy who was the grand poopity-doopity in the Ku Klux Klan with the big white thing over his head and burning down homes of black people and lynching black people, and second largest group lynching Italian Americans? I didn't like him very much. I met some of these people. Are you Italian? Mr. Guglielmi, are you Italian? And I would always make him pronounce my name. And I very often, even real important ones, I would say, Senator, did you ever take Latin? Latin? What's that? Or they'd say yes, because some of them were educated. And I said, did you ever read the Gaelic Wars? Yes. Who wrote the Gaelic Wars? Giulio Cesare, G-I-U. See my name, G-I-U? Giuliani. Not Gugliani, not Gugliini, not Gugu. It's Giuliani. Well-educated people know how to pronounce it.
Wait a second. So before you were as famous as you are now, is it true that people... I was
always a prick, yeah.
Well, no, that was not... But I don't believe that because
Maria's very upset.
Believe
She's
that.
very upset with me now.
Look, I have a feeling you can be a prick when you need to be when it comes to getting things done. But generally speaking, I don't feel that you're a prick.
No, you don't go after my nationality. I'm sorry.
Yeah. But
you don't go after America. You don't go after my Italian heritage.
Did people get your name? My question is, before you were famous, so did people get that name wrong a lot? Giuliani.
Oh, they get the name wrong now?
Even now? Okay. Yeah. I am genuinely
They can't spell it, even though they can pronounce it.
What would they say?
Guglielmi,
I'm guessing you're the most famous.
And if they're
Giuliani.
nice people, if they're ordinary, regular people, like the person at the counter, I never do that.
You don't quite. Oh, you don't.
When they're important schmucks and they can't get it right, that's when I do it. Like I'll say, I know it's a hard name. Or when somebody else has a hard name, they'll say to me, I have a hard name to pronounce. I'll say, oh, I have one too. So I was taught by my father, you never make fun of people that are, that are poor people, or that if you want to make fun of people, the only people who got guts, you
always punch up, right?
Yeah, make fun of the people that are theoretically on top of them.
Theoretically, yeah.
Particularly when they're a bunch of phony idiots.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what I say about President. Often during the campaign trail, right, he'd go after certain people and that, and what is he doing?
Oh, he's wonderful. He's wonderful to people. Like
exactly.
First night that we finished campaigning, when I was with him for 4 straight months, it must be 11 o'clock at night. We get to the plane. He always goes back to his bed in New York, and you think you're finished for the night. He goes back on. He had somebody bring down a big bag, and he puts his hand in the bag, and there's cash in it. But he didn't give it to Iran. He didn't give it to terrorists. He handed it out to all the people that helped him.
Wow.
He says, I always did this when I was a private citizen, and I asked for a rule, and said it's okay for me to do it as long as it's a reasonable, a normal tip amount of money.
Like tipping people that are helping with the luggage.
He actually got a ruling about it, and he wouldn't. I wanted him to
make that public.
Yeah, I wanted to take pictures.
He
wouldn't do it. And you know who caused that in him? George Steinbrenner. George Steinbrenner had this whole thing: you shouldn't tell people about the good deeds you do. There's something in the Bible.
There is.
There's something in the Bible. We'll go look it up about if you get your reward on earth, you're not going to get it in heaven.
Yeah.
Now, many people that listen to us are experts more than I am on the Bible, but I do remember that.
Yeah.
I do remember that from my own Bible teachings.
That's your Catholic
And then
upbringing.
I do remember it coming straight from the mouth of the great George Steinbrenner. And I'll give you another example. I found out when I became mayor, and I knew the guy for a decade as a fairly good friend, Steinbrenner. Every time a cop died, he threw in $10,000. Nobody ever knew.
Who?
Steinbrenner. Won't let you tell anybody. I've only told that story since he's dead. He wouldn't let me tell it. On 9/11, they wouldn't let me do it either. But I insisted. I said, on 9/11, you have to let me do it because it'll encourage other people to. You don't understand. If I can say Steinbrenner donated, the guy from GE who has had some bad times now, and but I will always be. He was the one that started it.
Welch?
No, the guy that succeeded him. He was just on the job for a few weeks. Get his name so I get it right. He deserves credit for this.
On 9/11?
Yeah, he calls. I call him up in order to make sure that we're going to have a steady supply of generators, because we didn't know how long the electricity would be out downtown. I get him on the phone, and he says, "Don't worry, Mayor. Your guy Rudy Washington called. Rudy's a really great guy. But sometime we're going to have Rudy on the phone. Rudy is a great guy. We're going to have him on the show."
Jeffrey Robert?
No.
Jack Welch.
No, who succeeded Jack Welch? Wasn't Jeffrey Robert.
I'll keep looking for this here. Jeff Immelt?
That's it, Jeff Immelt. God bless Jeff Immelt.
Where else do I know Jeff Immelt from?
Oh, he got fired, but
but I know him from something else.
I don't know what you do know him because he's all over the newspapers when he got fired, and a lot of stuff about GE and NBC and.
He was with NBC.
Yeah, come on. There are a lot of reasons for.
I know Jeffrey
but
Immelt.
there are things that people do that transcend everything else. Transcend everything else. And I said to him, I need the generators. And he said, my people want to donate to a charity where it goes directly to the policemen and the firefighters. We're going to take care of other people too, but we want one just for them because they are special. They didn't have to go in. I said, gee, Jeff, that's absolutely true. Yeah, we have something like that. Let me put Larry Levy on to give you the details. I said, yeah, just let him tell me where to send the $10 million check. I said, Jeff, wait, because we're going to start a charity, and I'll tell you the story on Monday. And stay on for those of you who want to listen to America's Mayor Confidential. And remember, Sunday, you're going to see that beautiful Dr. Maria again, but you won't see her because she's going to be on radio. Uncovering the Truth, 10 o'clock, WABCRadio.com. God bless America and God bless our veterans.
Yeah. Yay.